Morning. I'm Steve Lentini, the founder of Lord and Lentini, and I'm an author and a speaker about leadership, self awareness, sales, which is all based on self awareness and authenticity, and about training what I call the acorn brain. I got to go over here, right? Here's the acorn brain. That's my trademark. That's the little voice that most people have. Very few people have said they don't have a little voice that talks to them incessantly. And that's the thing to learn to manage. So here's one of the books I wrote, Helping People Buy. And I'm updating it this year. There's a new edition coming out in May, subtitled A Sales Methodology That Customers Trust and Salespeople Love, because it's very different compared to traditional sales training and sales ideas, because you don't need training for this. You need to learn things that are easier, authenticity, things that salespeople are afraid of, and leadership is afraid to train it. And it's about being fully present and curious and understanding clearly what's the best fit for your company. And then this is a series of 13 episodes, and this is episode 8 about leadership. And this applies to sales teams, executive teams, CEOs in particular, because you're all responsible for the culture you see. In many sales organizations, it's funny because in sales organizations, sometimes the sales team is involved incessantly listening to their brain and complaining about the company, thinking, of course, they can run it better. And then in executive meetings, there's a lament often that people don't tell the leaders the truth. They're playing a game. So here's the leadership culture, the leadership habit, I should say, that changes culture the fastest. Cultures shift when leaders change the way that conversation happens. This means the leader has to be present, extremely present. One powerful habit to learn is to name the thinking pattern you see. When you see people shifting and uncomfortable, a present leader would call it out and say, "What just happened? I noticed a shift. I noticed people uncomfortable. I noticed," and you name it. You might say you're listening to a discussion about a new path to take, a new strategy, and you're noticing people's body language and facial expressions show that they're uncomfortable. And you would say, "Hey, this kind of sounds like we're looking for certainty that we want to guarantee. In life, no risk, no reward. And if we're going to do something new, it's best if it feels somewhat uncomfortable." Is when you start naming patterns, it reduces tension and increases awareness. So then you would say, "So let's talk about the uncertainty and what people are uncomfortable about. And what do you like about this strategy? What don't you like about this strategy? In particular, what's making you uncomfortable?" And call out the pattern of what I call the acorn brain that wants certainty. It wants certainty because it's based on DNA passed down, fear from the caveman days. As far as I know, there's no pterodactyls that are going to swoop down on us when we leave the car in the company parking lot and make a mad dash to the office. Same at home if you're working from home. I don't know of anyone that's going to the supermarket that has to worry about a saber-toothed tiger going to eat them. The thing is, the brain still has fear impulses, wanting to be comfortable, wanting to be safe. And it's the most difficult thing for people who aren't aware of it, right? They don't work to train their mind. So some of the other 15 books, besides Helping People Buy, your brain is brilliant, but it's not always your friend. And here's why your brain is not a friend, and simple strategies to change that. It takes work training the mind. Then I wrote No BS Coaching as well last year. Wake up from the BS you tell yourself, because we all have a story and we gather evidence to prove it's true. And that's what your team is doing when they're uncomfortable. They're listening to that acorn brain, this little brain, this little thinker. They're listening to that little voice, and it can be reprogrammed. And many people talk about this work today. Wise Mind, Open Mind, written by Dr. Roland Alexander. Sri Kumar Rao, Are You Ready to Succeed? Positive Intelligence, written by Shirzad Shamin. I just said Wise Mind, Open Mind. Mind Magic by Dr. James Doty. Dr. Daniel Amen. There are so many people. Joe Dispenza, a lot of YouTube, a lot of writing about it, talking about reprogramming the mind. And most people still today, thankfully, it provides me a lot of work, still believe their thinking. Then I wrote How to Train Your Mind. The month after I wrote No BS Coaching, I wrote How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon. Program your mind for success. I took license with that because I'm born in the year of the dragon. And I paint the picture of the friendly dragon, making a friend of life as opposed to an enemy. Because many people, as Eckhart Tolle says often, are fighting life. And when you fight life, life fights you. And so to look at life as, are you battling the fire-eating dragon, the fire-spewing dragon? Or have you made a friend of life, that life is for you, that nothing's happening to you? The key in any event, because there are things you cannot control, is your response. And leaders have to lead, because your response to events, if you're the one that's alarmed and triggered and uncomfortable and not certain and afraid, that's going to be a behavior that's others will model. That's where you are responsible for your culture. So I have a question for you. Leaders, when you're running meetings, what thinking pattern do you notice most often in team discussions? Call them out. Name the thinking pattern. Start talking to your team, or bring me in and start talking about not believing your brain, not to believe your thinking. Don't take my word for it. You can prove it to yourself. There's a lot of people doing this work today. Why? David Baer does what he calls the mind hack. Same idea as the acorn brain and reprogramming the brain. It's up to you. You can lead in a whole new way by being present and grounded and not afraid of everything you see in the meetings, because I know you see it. I know you see it. You see the eye shifts and the eye rolls and people going like this. That means they're closed off. You see it. Call it out. Start naming it. Naming patterns reduce tension and increase awareness. It increases awareness. So now your team can feel more relaxed to share what's really going on. But someone has to lead it. If you like, I can help develop that for you. You can email me here. I'll show you how to get me on one of the books here. The title, the author, Steve. Just go to steve@stevelentini.com. steve@stevelentini.com. Now, all my books are on Amazon. If you Google Steve Lentini books, or if you want a particular book, you can also go to Steve Lentini author, which would be Steve Lentini author. You add it on here.com. I'm making it simple. And I'm not perfect. I haven't yet found the way to reprogram my mind 100%. That voice is still active. As far as I know, it's a journey. Others may disagree with me. I don't believe so. I recommend naming the brain, as Dr. Daniel Amen does. He's got the Amen centers all around the country to help people reprogram and rewire their thinking. David Baer and the Mind Hack. So there's a lot of work. Why? Dr. Daniel Amen, for example, named his brain Little Hermie, after a rambunctious pet raccoon he had, a troublesome raccoon when he was a teenager. Yeah, that's your brain. A troublesome voice. Rainer Maria Rilke in the 1800s called his voice the little hooligan. George Ivanovich Gurdjieff in the early 1900s called it the machine. He would say, are you going to let the machine run you or will you run it? And when you're in a reactive mode and you're in what's called primal emotions, anger, frustration, disappointment, anxiety, sadness, that's an indicator you're stuck in primal thinking. And neuroscientists are proving in research that people stuck in primal thinking and all those emotions, if they're stuck in it too long, their life gives them more of that. They end up with a lower return on investment from primal thinking. People that switch into powerful thinking, which is creativity, problem solving, accountability, gratitude, joy in the moment, peaceful, knowing life is for them, they have a higher return on investment. You have to prove these things to yourself, and you can help your team by naming some of these things and teaching them not to believe their brain. I'm available. Invite me to come in. I have programs. I do keynote addresses, or buy some of my books. Go to Amazon. Have a reading group with your executive team and encourage them to start teaching what they're learning and what they're reading about in my work to help people on their teams reprogram their mind and be more authentic. Learn to say what you tangibly know to be true. And then let go of what you want for an outcome, because that's called manipulation, which is also one of the primal emotions. Manipulators don't get far in life. They end up collapsing somewhere. Again, you got to prove all this stuff to yourself. So I'll show you how to reach me again one more time. Steve, this way, Steve at stevelentini.com. And this is a journey. I tell people that if I ever tell you I found the way, run away. It's each individual's journey. My job is me. Your job is you. That's the work. It's to focus on yourself. And there's many other tools that are helpful that I do talk about. Now, episode 9 is going to be building psychological safety through awareness. And this is how teams share freely only when they feel safe. And I just gave you a clue how to help them feel safe. So that's up to you, right? Are you going to help them feel safe by calling out some of what you notice? It's okay. I know you know. I know you notice, but you're leaving it inside. And what that leads to is BS. It's a fake conversation until you understand, especially from your executive team, how they really are and how they show up, and encourage them to show up with authenticity and to say what they tangibly know to be true. You're not getting the truth. What CEO wouldn't love the truth? What team leader wouldn't love the truth? What executive leader wouldn't love the truth? Get to the truth. Make people feel comfortable about it by calling it out when you notice it. Thank you.